Thanks everybody for joining. This is the third day to our class, full stack software development using Python. The first class was the very first class was on basics of Python. Then based on the based on everyone's wish and agreement, we wanted to build a curriculum on becoming a full stack developer from scratch. So many people may not have any basics of programming. Many people may have some understanding of programming. So this course is supposed to be help the newcomers to kind of become a full stack developer. Now, if you understand, full stack developer is a very involved process. This is not going to be like, you can become a full stack developer in one day for sure. This is like impossible. But this course is to like help everyone to start from scratch and gradually build on the top and introduce the complexities one over the other so that it doesn't become really overwhelming and it becomes easy for everyone to understand. Okay. At the same time, if someone is experienced here with software development and programming, in the beginning, it may be boring for you, but there will be items that may be new to you. For example, Flask. I don't know if you have any experience with Flask. Flask may be new to you. So there will be something for everyone, I believe, in this session. However, as we progress, as we go forward, there will be topics like deployment. There will be topics like, for example, better coding, introducing like MVC architecture. These things are considered a little more advanced. So hopefully that will help everyone, including the ones who are have high experience in software development. So let's get started. Full stack software development. This is the day 3. What we are building actually is a Twitter clone, a very basic Twitter clone that will will understand the feature how Twitter works. So we are building a Twitter clone. In the last class we were able to like post a tweet, and in the backend side we got the tweet and we printed that, right? We kind of made a post request and a get request to post the tweet and then get the tweet. So that was pretty basic. But today's agenda is basically to show the tweet in a list. So we'll take all the tweets and then we'll create the list of all the tweets. Okay. Then we'll create a page to show the tweets on that page. So when we create a page, we'll definitely need a Flask route, right? Then in order to store the tweets in a list, we'll need a variable that is of type list. We'll learn how to add tweets to the list. We'll learn how to look through the tweets and print the tweets one after the other on a page. So this is the main agenda of this of today's session. So we'll be introducing new items one after the other, and those are in the next slide. So I'll get started. A little bit about me for the members who joined first time. My name is Ahsanul Chaudhary. I'm a software engineering manager. I have 15+ years of experience. I love Python a lot. I have a bachelor's degree in IT. I'm a AWS certified DevOps engineer as well. Move forward. So lists in Python. What is a list in Python? So we want to show all the tweets in a list. This is the main requirement. So in order to put all the tweets in a list, first of all, we need to understand what kind of information are we gonna store in the list. What is a list? Imagine a shopping list. You want to go for shopping. You want to buy something, right? So because there are a number of items there, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe for some people 50, it's very hard to remember. So you create a list, right? And you take that with you so that you don't forget. So a list is basically a number of items written on a paper in real world. But in computer or in Python world, a list is a data type. A list is a data type. The goal essentially is the same, to store information in a list, so that we can do something about it in future. Okay. Now, instead of creating a list, imagine we are again for that example, we are going for shopping. We could create small pieces of sticky notes, for example, and have 50 sticky notes and write one item on each sticky note like this, right? We could say that I want to buy bananas in one. I want to buy milk, another one. So I have banana and milk. So, and then we'll have 50 of it if I continue like this, right? Imagine you want to buy 50 items, right? But the thing is that managing these 50 sticky notes is pretty difficult because you may lose one, right? And again, like keeping 50s together in real life is pretty hard. In the same way, in Python world, each sticky note would be considered a string type variable, banana and milk, banana and milk. So imagine we have 50. So each are variables, like string type variable. What is string? String is other name of text, anything like text. My name is Ahsanul Chaudhary, that's the text. Walmart is a text, right? Banana is a text, milk is a text. So this is text type data. Or in Python term, it's a string type data. It's the same thing. So imagine we have 1 string, 2 string, 3 string, 4 string, like 50 strings written in each paper. That's unmanageable. In Python world also, it becomes unmanageable. So when you see a pattern of repeated things, we being human being are pretty smart. And we say, instead of having different sticky notes, why don't I take one paper, like one piece of paper, and put everything and write everything down on the paper. So in that way, I don't have to I don't have to manage 50 smaller pieces. I have just one paper to manage, right? So exactly from the same principle, in Python, we have something called list. So instead of have 50 variables, we have one variable. And in that one variable, we have all the tweets stored in one place. So that's actually is a list of strings. List of strings, but in our case, it's a list of string, and each string contains one tweet. Each string contains one tweet. Now you see here on the right side the example that I have an example taken from the internet. 3 tweets: tweet 1, tweet 2, tweet 3. See that black line? Adore travel. This entire line is one string. The second entire line is one string. The third entire line is one string. So these are basically strings. We call them tweets. So in Python world, we can have one list and store all those strings in the list. All right, so let's go and move forward. I said that already. Every tweet is a variable. What if we have 1,000 tweets, right? It's difficult to manage this 1,000 tweets. So we come up with something called Python list. So here's an example of Python list, how it's supposed to look. Tweets equals square brace, then in quotes, tweet 1, comma, tweet 2, and then tweet 3, tweet 4, tweet 5, tweet 6, and tweet 1,000, right? So this is a little fancy syntax, right? So tweets is the variable. Tweets is the variable that contains the list of tweets, and I'm assigning all the tweets in there. Now, whenever Python sees that there's this square brace start and a square brace end, Python automatically converts that variable into list. So this is, instead of Python says, oh, this is not a single variable, this is a list. Okay? This is the syntax for it, square braces. The moment we have square braces, Python knows that this is a list. A list contains more than one data information in it. And what information are we storing there? Tweet 1, comma, tweet 2, comma, tweet 3, tweet 4, tweet 5. In this example, tweet 1 is just oversimplification of a tweet. No one says tweet 1 as a tweet. It will be a string. It can contain a big sentence. It can contain like 100 characters, 200 characters, right? And it can contain like up to 1,000, 2,000, you name it. I don't think there is a limit. I need to Google that. I don't know how many items Python list can contain, if there is a limitation, or if the memory is the limit. But this is something maybe I'll find out and let you know. You can Google that as well. Any questions so far? All right, I'll take it as a no. I'll move forward. Now, using a list, declaring an empty list, a list that doesn't contain anything, is tweets equals square brace start, square brace end. Nothing in between. That means that list is empty. It's like a white paper. Nothing is in there. Okay. Now how do we add an item to the tweet? This list tweets. How do we add one item to it? So in order to add one item to it, we said tweets.append. Append adds an item to the end of the list. Append adds an item to the end of the list. How many tweets do we have so far when we declare tweets equals square brace start, square brace end? 0. There is nothing. So when it adds an item to it, it's actually the first item to the list. Tweets.append my first tweet, which means one item got added. Python will take this information, whatever is in this double quotes, my first tweet, and insert into the list. That's how we do it in Python. In real world, we'll take a paper and just write my first tweet, the first item, my second tweet, my second item. But in Python, this is how we do that. Or we could do also this. We could do T1. T1 is just a variable. T1, just a variable or a placeholder, equals my first tweet. And then I said tweets.append T1. It's actually exactly the same thing. The first one, if you see, tweets.append my first tweet, it's appending the string directly into the tweet. The second example, it added the tweet in a variable, T1, and then it appended it to the tweet. It's actually the same thing. It's just the other way of doing it. All right. We may need both based on the situation in life. Okay, but it's exactly the same thing. Then we have another tweet, T2 equals my second tweet. And in order to add T2 to the tweets, we say tweets.append T2. Done. So now how many items do we have in the tweets list? There will be 2 items. How do we know how many items we have? In order to know how many items we have in the tweets, there is a function or a special function given by Python called len. L-E-N stands for length. Okay, len bracket, you pass the variable itself, which is in our case tweets. It just tells you how many items do we have in there. And as you can see, len tweets, it's showing 2 in here. Okay, let's try this out in my terminal real quick for you. Okay, so I'll just open a new terminal and I will just go to Python. Sorry, let me zoom in. Can you see my screen? See my black screen, everyone?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is enough talking. This will just a little bit of practical, but we'll go to Replit very soon. But here we'll be trying out what exactly we learned. Okay. So this is Python shell. Okay. Here I can run any Python command that I want. All right. So what did we learn first? We learned that I can declare a variable something like twwts tweets equals square brace start, square brace end. This will create an empty list in Python. I'll hit enter. It's happy. It didn't complain. If it wasn't happy, it would have complained. That's how it works. If it didn't say nothing, it says like it just returns a shell to you, means that everything is fine. Now, okay, now I created an empty list. What if I tell it to print or show me what is inside the tweets? twwts. I just hit enter and it will show you, hey, you have nothing. It's an empty list. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and add one item to it. twwts.append. This is to add an item to the tweet. And to add an item, we need to add these brackets. String sign, since we are adding a string or text, my first tweet. String end, bracket end. Tweets.append my first tweet. Enter. Didn't say nothing, which means everything is fine. So let's see what our tweets variable now contains. Tweets. And you can see that in square braces, it has 1 item now. Okay, let's add another one. I can hit the up arrow here on my keyboard and repeat my first old command. Tweets.append my, this time, second tweet. Let's hit enter. Looks like everything is fine. What does tweet contain now? I have my first tweet And you can see the second item got added after my first tweet, which is my second tweet. All right. So this is now clearly a list, and I can append as many tweets as I want to create a full list of my tweets. Another thing that we learned is to know how many items do we have in the tweet. And the function provided by Python, a built-in function provided by Python, is called, anyone remembers? Len, L-E-N, stands for length, L-E-N. So how many items do we have in the tweets variable? 2. So if I call len function, it should return 2, right? So let's do len. I want to know the length of tweets, then bracket and pass my variable, which is tweets. I want to know the length of my tweets. Hit enter, and you can see I have 2 items in there. Now it's very obvious. We can very well see that how many items are in there. But in real life, when we build an application, that can become really complicated. It can have huge number of lists, huge number of items in a list. Okay, just to give you an example, my other tweet, and I'll just keep adding it. Enough. Now, if I say, show me the tweets, and you'll see it now becomes a little bit difficult to count how many items we have. And I don't know even how many times I hit enter. Now, if I do len and tweets, it shows me 20 items got added. Make sense?
Yeah.
Great. Any questions so far? Great. So how about I wanna now I can, if I type tweets variable, Python shows me all the items that I have in the list. But what if I want to access or only want to get the second item from the list? What if I only want to get the second item from the list? It's a fair requirement, right? Anytime we might need to access a specific item in the list, right? There are 20 items. How do I get the second item?
You put tweets square bracket 1 square bracket.
That's correct. Exactly. It's tweets. That tweets is the variable that contains everything. But I want to know only the second one, right? What is the second item in the list? So I can give it a square braces here. It's just a syntax, okay? It's just a syntax. Tweets, square braces, then the index of it. Which item do you want to access? In our case, is second item, and square brace close. Now, the problem is computer deals with lists a little different than the real life. In our world, in human world, we start with 1. We start a list with like number 1, banana, number 2, milk, number 3, veg, apple, right? But in computer world or in Python world, a list starts with number 0. A list starts with number 0, not number 1. So in our world, we say 1, 2, 3. They say, Python says 0, 1, 2. So if I want to get the second item, it's not 2. It's not the first. It's not the second item. Is actually the first. It's not this second index. It's the first index, because the index starts from 0 in Python. So in order to get, so you can see that the first item that I have in tweets, the first item is my first tweet. The second item is my second tweet. So in order to access the second item, my first tweet, I have to just mention tweet in index 1. And it's my second tweet. How do we get the first one then? How do we get the first one? Anyone?
0.
There you go, because Python starts with 0. How do we get the last item? How many items do we have? 20, right? We have 20 items. How do we get the last item from the list?
Len tweets -1.
Yeah, that's very programmatic way of doing it. That's really nice. But if we just had to count, since we know there are 20 items and Python starts with 0, so it's not 1 to 20, it's instead 0 to 19, right? It's actually the same length, same number of items, whether you start from 1 to 20 or 0 to 19, regardless of how you index it, right? The number of items is the same. So the last item is 19, right? Last item is 19, my other tweet. So let's add one more item. Tweets dot append my last item. So this is going to be the 21st item in the list. So let's see, let's run our magic length function. Now it says I have 21 items in there. Okay, so now let's get the last item from there. Tweets, and then the last item now, since I have 21 items and Python starts from 0, the last item is 20. Right? There you go, my last item. So far making sense?
Yep.
Great. Any questions so far?
There's any way to get the last one object from the list without count first?
Without
To know the number of the object in the list.
yes, yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what was suggested by, sorry, I forgot that who was saying the len -1? Len -1 solution?
Yeah.
Someone was-
Yeah, it was me, Sam.
Sam, yeah, it's exactly what Sam was suggesting, and that's actually a more what do you call, more
Programmatical.
programmatic, yeah, more programmatic way of doing it. And probably we need this more often than knowing the index, because most of the time in world in life we will not know the total length of the tweet. So now, so what Sam was suggesting is that we do, so maybe we break it down a little, right? Maybe we break it down. So len tweets says 21, right? So len gives me always the total number of items. However, if I want to access the last item, it's the length -1, because Python starts from 0. It's length -1. If I have 100 items, the last item index is 99. If I have 1,000 items, the last item index is 1,000 - 1, 999. That's obvious, right? So what we do is we can just say, so how do you get the last item then? Len tweets -1, right? There you go, it's 20. So what Sam was suggesting, in order to get the last item, we do tweets, then in square braces, instead of putting a number, we do len tweets, this entire statement, and it gives you the last item. So now the good thing is that if I append, now let's for this example, I just add banana, and then I want to get the last item. You see I get the banana now. Now with this, we can also get the second last item, right? The second last item is nothing but -2, right? So that's the second last item. And the third last item, and we can go on and on. But again, answering the question, how do you get the last item without space, without knowing how many items we have? It's length of the tweets -1.
Can we just simplify by just tweet -1?
Tweets -1?
Like tweet square bracket -1 square ending square bracket.
Oh, wow. That's a little more advanced. Who understands the indexing way better. So you are absolutely correct. We can do -1, and that would give me banana. That's the indexing. That's the indexing of, that's how Python lists are indexed. Len tweet -1 is more like obvious and understandable. But tweet -1, in order to understand that, we need to understand a little more that how Python indexes every item in an array or list. So it starts from 0. The first item starts from 0, but the last item Python also indexed -1. So that's how Python works. Thanks Juan for suggesting that. But this is a very smart way of doing that as well. Thank you. Any further question? Doubts? All right, so let's move forward then. So we know how to add an item. We know how to check the length of it. We can access a specific item in the list. Can we remove an item from the list? And that's easy. That's actually just calling a function, tweets.pop, and you just provide the index of it. It deletes the item. So for when I say tweet.pop 0, it deletes the first item. So let's go ahead and delete an item and see how it works. All right. So now let's see, the length of tweets is 22. So let's delete an item now. So we do tweets.pop. Which one do you want to delete? We need to provide an index. So maybe we want to delete the first tweet, which is it says my first tweet. So my first tweet index is 0. All right. And you can see that my first tweet shows my first tweet. So let's see the length of tweets. Before it was 22, and now it is 21. It's because my first tweet got deleted. And how we do that is just tweets.pop, and you provide the index of the item that we want to delete. Make sense? Any question? All right, so let's move forward. So remove a tweet, fairly easy, using a list. One thing we might need to use in real life is kind of, join all the tweets using some kind of delimiter or some kind of character, right? Imagine we want to comma separate the shopping list, banana, milk, banana, comma, milk, comma, blah, 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 right? So in order to do that, in order to join all the items with comma, we need to call this join function. So we use quotes, whatever you want to join with, in my case is comma, dot join, and then you just provide the variable tweets. It will convert the list into a string and give you one single line, comma separated. Okay, it's just a very handy function that many times in life we use. Very handy function. Now here's one example. If I just say print the tweets, you can see that in the square brace it's showing me a list, square brace T1, T2, T3. But if I say that join it, it will see that all these square braces are gone. The total things becomes one single line with one string. T1, T2, T3, the entire thing is one string. Okay, it's pretty useful. We'll see in a bit when we practically implement that in our web server. So let me quickly do that, implement that example. So I'll say that use this comma dot join, then bracket all my tweets. And now you can see that it's one single string, a big one single string that says my second tweet, because my first tweet was deleted. Then my other tweet, and then at the last we have my last item and banana that we added. Let's play around a little more. Instead of comma, how about you want comma and space? So that it's a little more readable. Comma and space. So join comma and space between every tweet and give me one liner. There you go. My second tweet is comma and space, comma and space, comma and space everywhere. Okay. Easy? Make sense? All right, I'll move forward. So this is so far what we needed in order to get today's today's goal done, today's agenda. We'll use all this to kind of get our today's agenda done. But there is one more thing that we need to know, which is a for loop with a list. Okay. Now, what is this for loop? Many of you might know about for loop already. But for those who don't know, it allows us to repeat a task for a number of times. That's basically it. It's a loop. A loop is something gets repeated. Loop is something that gets repeated. But a for loop repeats for a specific number of times. That's about it. It has to be finite. It cannot be running forever. That's why it's a for loop. There is another loop that can run forever. But for loop, by definition, is supposed to be running for a finite number of time, n number of times. All right. Now, in our case, we have number of items in the tweets. We have n number of items. For example, now I think we have 20 or 21 tweets. We want to create a page where we show all the tweets one after the other. So we don't have infinite amount of tweets. We have finite number of tweets. That's number one. And we want to do the same thing. Show the tweet, show the tweet, show the tweet, one after the other. So for loop is a very good example, very good tool for getting this task done. All right. So the syntax of this for loop is here: for every tweet in the list, print the tweet. For every tweet in the list, print the tweet. Okay. Now, see, in our tweets array, we have T1, T2, T3 for this example. And in order to show T1, T2, and T3, we have for T in tweets, this is a Python syntax for the loop. It's a Python syntax for the loop. For the ones who are seeing it first time, we just have to understand it and memorize it. But it's just a syntax that Python understands, and Python understands that this is a loop. It means that it needs to do something over and over and over. But the Python asks the question, okay, how many times do I have to do it? How many times do I have to do it? Then the for loop has the answer. For T in tweets, it actually means that for as many items as we have in tweets, for as many items as we have in tweets. If you have 20 items, repeat 20 times the following command, print T. Repeat 20 times for T in tweets. Excuse me. If you had 1,000 items in there, this print command would execute for 1,000 times. Since we have 20, it will be printed 20 times. In this example that is being shown, we have tweets. We have 3 tweets, so it will get repeated 3 times. So here is what the example would show would print in the console: T1, T2, T3. Now, there is one thing that we need to remember is that every time the loop iterates over the list, the T thing here changes its position. The T becomes T1 at first, then T becomes T2 in the second run, and T becomes T3 in the third run, so that we know where the loop is pointing at this point, right? I have 20 items in my shopping list. I go to Walmart and I start with the first one, banana. So I go to the banana spot and buy some banana, and then take some banana, and then the second item may be milk. So I go to the milk spot and pick up the milk from there. So I go one after the other. So as I'm buying stuff, as I'm picking things up and putting in my basket, I'm moving the pointer from first item to the second item, then third item, then the fourth item, one after the other, right? In Python world as well, as he's going through the list, it goes to the first one, T1 first, then it allows T1 to be printed, then it goes to the T2 and allows T2 to be printed. So it just keeps moving on one after the other until it reaches the last line of the list, which is in this case, T3. T1 is the first item, T3 is the last item. So let's go and see it in action in our example.
Spent a big day with their mom, Margaret, and a small group of her and her mom's friends. Similar information says I about it too.
All right.
Lots of people to the camera about her hip hop to that dance. It's 20th
I'll
birthday.
just mute. So it has some extra noise. All right. So let's do the loop now. So how do you do that? For is the keyword for starting a loop. We can name it the first item is for T in my tweets. For T in my tweets, we could name this T to whatever. For Asan in my tweet. So the Asan is just a placeholder, just a name of the bucket, right? Just a placeholder. But let's keep it T for now. Colon is the syntax. It starts of the loop. And then it says, what do you want to print? So this is the, you see the, I hit space here, tab here. So for T in tweets, execute whatever line is below, okay? But what is going to be executed is whatever I type in here, print T. So for T in tweets, go one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, print the tweet, whatever line I have printed here. So I just hit enter. And you can see that it started with the first one, my second tweet, other tweet, other tweet, other tweet, and then the last item, which is banana. Now, if we add tweets.append milk, so I add one more item to my tweet, and then I run the loop once again. And you can see it start again from my second tweet, and the last item is milk. So it doesn't really matter how many items we have in there. It will eventually do the same thing over and over. It's never bored. That's why it's a computer. It's never bored. I can add as many items as I want. Even if it's a 1,000 item, 10,000 item, it will be just a matter of time before it's done with printing all the items. This is a very basic example, but it's a very powerful tool in programming world. Any, does that make sense? Any question, anyone? No? All right. Excuse me. So let's move forward. So now enough theory. Let's start coding and let's start playing with our existing you know, the web server that we created on the last day. So it should be day 3.1. So my REPL and should be okay. Not day 2. Yeah, that's fine. It's day 2 for the Twitter application. Raise your hand, whoever is familiar with this code so far. If you joined the last class. Two? Okay. All right. So do you want me to explain this code?
Looks like a web server.
It is a web server. Yeah. So I'll go through the code quickly since only 2 persons are joining from the last class. So here we are building a Twitter clone, right? We're building a Twitter clone in the very early stage of building it. In order to build a Twitter clone, we need a web server because Twitter is a website or a web application, right? So Flask is a web server. Flask allows us to create a web server in Python. Flask allows us to create a web server in Python. It's a very famous tool, library in Python. Okay, so what we did, the first line here, I'll quickly go through it. I'm basically from Python, I'm importing Flask library. Okay, I'm also including request library. It's also coming from the same library, Flask. The main library is Flask. Main library is Flask. I'm saying from Flask, import the Flask framework and the request library. Okay. This allows me to create a web server. As simple as that. I don't understand, and I don't know many developers will understand the internals of a Flask application. That's not the intent of it. The idea is to take that library and use it to create your own web application. All right. But at this point, what is important to know is Flask allows us to create a website or a web application. In this case, we are creating a Twitter clone. Now, the web application, in order to create the web application, I need an app variable or application variable. And I say my application, this application is nothing but a Flask application. Okay. And I have to provide a name to it. So I provide the current file name. The current file name is main.py. And I just say that __name __. It just provides a file name. So it just use that file name. I could have used Asan here. Okay. But it's a good practice to provide the file name, pass the file name to it. Okay. So I'm just following the best practice. So it creates the Flask application. So you have your web application ready. That's all. 2 lines, your application is constructed. Before I go into the detail of it, the last line of it, line number 28, is saying application.run on a port on an IP address. Now in internet world, I think everyone will be more or less familiar with this keyword IP address, right? So technically every server that is connected to the internet will have an IP address, right? So here I'm saying that application.run connect to all the IP addresses that you have. One server can have more than 1 IP addresses. So instead of me specifying a specific IP address, I'll just say, you know what? Start the web server on all the IP addresses, which is 0.0.0.0. It's another name of pointing to all the IP addresses available to the server. Okay. But for now, we can just memorize that 0.0.0.0, all IP addresses. And I'm saying specifically the port number 81. It's a 80 and 81 are basically used for kind of web services. I could have used 80, but Replit suggested I put 81, so I'm using 81. You can use whatever port you want. 3000, 5000, 8000, those are non-standard ports. You can use those ports as well. But this very line number 28, is doing nothing but running your web application. So basically, line number 1, line number 3, and line number 28 together is already your web server running. Maybe not doing anything, but running. All right, so let's take a step forward and see what is line number 6 doing. Line number 6 is saying, excuse me, root of my web server serves this HTML. Okay. Now, when we go to google.com, we don't say google.com/something. We just go to google.com. When we hit a server by .com and put nothing else after that, it's basically the root of the web application. It's like the living room of the web application. Okay. So I said that whoever comes to my website, give him or her this form. Okay. So this is a form, HTML form, for people who are not familiar with HTML. This allows us to submit data to the server. Now, when we type a tweet and submit, it's a form that's getting submitted to the backend. So the backend can save it and show it to the other people. Okay. In real world, when we, for example, submit a request, we fill up a form, right? Then we submit. I want to open an account. I go to the bank and fill up a form that has all the details, and I submit, they process it. They know how to process it. In computer world or web application world, a form is something that allows people using the web browser to submit something. It can be a tweet. It can be a Facebook status. It can be a job application. It can also be a contact us application, right? A contact us form. So in this case, we are just create a basic form that has 2 elements in it, 2 important elements. One is the tweet. One is the tweet element, which is a text type element. And one is the username of it, username of the user. Now, since there is no logging functionality, we kept it very simple that you put your tweet and you put a username, and then you can submit the tweet. Okay. So this gives us the form. And as you can see on the right side, it's showing a form that is not so beautiful, definitely, but it does the job. It's asking you for a tweet and then asking for a username. All right. So let's maybe beautify a little. What is happening? Maybe for now, just make it a header so it looks a little better. Okay, stop and run it again. Okay, so what is happening? Now it's a bit bolder, a bit bigger, because I used a header tag. H stands for heading. Okay, H3 is the third heading. H1 is the biggest heading. So I'm using the H3 version of it, which is a little smaller one. All right. Now, the line number 7 to line number 18 is nothing but showing me some HTML that allows me to submit the form. Now, when I submit the form, someone has to take the data and do something about it, right? It's like someone is giving me an application form and someone is receiving the application form and processing it. These are two different things. And in real world, there'll be two different persons, maybe one giving you the form, the other person processing it. Now, in computer world or in Flask world, these two persons are created by registering two different routes. Well, in real world, can the same person give me the form and process the form? Of course. But in computer world, it's better to have two different routes to handle two different things. One is giving you the form, let it be one route. One is handling the form, let it be another route. That's the that's a better way of doing it. All right. For the same reason, we have another route here, /post office. I just named it /post office last time. So whoever goes to /post office, it will ask for the tweet and ask for the username, and it will show I received the tweet and the username. So post office is doing nothing, receiving the data and showing that, hey, I received it. That proof of concept that you submitted it, I received it. Okay, not really doing anything at this point. All right. Now, for the new people, I'm talking about the route. In a bank, when you go to the customer service to get a form, and you go to the manager to submit the form, for example. You take a form from the customer service, you submit the form to the manager, just for the sake of example. In web server world, these are routes, okay? / is the home page that can serve you the form, /post office, imagine the manager that's processing the form, okay? These are called route, okay? Route, here I have the route called /, here I have the route called /post office. These are two different routes. All right. One more thing is that my / route, line number 6, it only receives the request and serves you the data. It does not expect any kind of data to be submitted by you. Okay, which means that whoever is giving you the form is not receiving the form. If you submit back the form to that same person, she will say, I don't process this form, you'll have to submit to the manager. Okay, but if you go and ask the manager for a form, the manager will say, can you go to the customer service and collect the form from there? So two persons doing two different things. In the same way, line number 21, app.route, post office, this is the receiver of the data. It says that the methods that I accept is post, which means it accepts data from somewhere else. Okay, in this case, it accepts username and password from the home page. /post office will not serve any GET request. Who knows the difference between the GET request and a POST request? If you raise your hand, please. Tim knows. Okay, so looks like most of us don't know about the GET request and POST request. I think it's very important that we talk about it. Okay, this is a very important topic, and I don't think GET request and POST request are required to be, a software engineer thing. I think everyone should understand what is a GET request and what is a POST request. Now, whenever we go to google.com, we are making a GET request. In the web application world, we are making a GET request. So let's go to google.com. Sorry, close that. Yeah, let me go to google.com. See, I go to google.com and it gives me a form. This is technically a form, right? This text box is actually a form. It's telling me to write something and do a Google search, which is submitting of the form. Okay, it's a GET request. Whenever I go to google.com, hit enter, it's a GET request. Now, because we have a very beautiful interface, we kind of don't know what's happening behind the scene, but it's actually making a GET request. The browser, on behalf of you, making a GET request to get this form. Okay, how do we actually see what a GET request look like? Okay, so let's go to our old friend CLI. I'll come out of this. I'll actually make a GET request to Google. So let's do that. That's correct. Tim, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. So let me make a GET request to Google from the CLI. At a browser level, we don't really see the GET request going because that's what is happening under the hood. But we'll be making a GET request now. In order to make a GET request, the tool that we can use here is called curl. In the UI world, we use Chrome browser, but in a CLI world, there's something called curl. That tells that allows me to do a lot of things. Curl -x is the method, and then I do get, and I make the request to https www.google.com. Okay, so this is what is happening behind the scene. Curl x get. I want to make a GET request to Google, and I want to see what happens here. Enter, and as you can see, that it gave me a lot of text, right? Doc type, blah 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 blah. This is what is happening. Browser is making this GET request to Google, and you're getting all this information back from Google. You didn't post any information to Google. You just visited the homepage of Google, and you do it by making a GET request. So I can guarantee you that this very request that we made is a GET request. What is a post request, and why do we need a post request? Post requests are for submitting information. For example, Python basics, okay? And I do a Google search. I type something, and then I'm doing a Google search, all right? The moment I do that, okay, Google made a post request. You can see some URLs in there as well, but I just wanna, for this session, I just wanna say that it made a post request. And Google took this data information, Python basic. This information went to the backend. Did it or not? It went to the backend of Google. Someone took it, or some route took it, processed that, do all the machine learning, artificial intelligence logic, all the things there, and then return all these results, right? So this is the route that handled the request. Now in the Google search, you can see that google.com/search. This is the route that handles Google search. This is the route that handles Google search. But if I go to home page, this is the route, this is the slash route that handles the home page of it, the GET request of it. In the same way, here we have a slash that serves the home page that gives us a form like Google search. And this is the post office URL that handles the request from there, like Google. The Google has slash and search, we have slash and post office. Does that make things a little clear? Any question, please? Feel free to ask.
Kind of quick question. I typed up that web server real quick. Why would it say like permission denied?
Permission denied. Where are you trying it?
I'm just running it in a terminal on a laptop.
Okay, so permission denied. So that is probably because you're trying to register port number 81, is it?
Yeah, correct.
Try 8000. Change it to 8000, run it, and
Okay, yeah, that worked.
it worked, right? Okay,
Yeah.
the reason behind it is port number 2023, I think. 2023, these are the ports that are booked or especially booked by the operating system. Whoever is not a root or admin of it, admin of the of the computer, can't register anything on this ports. Anything above 1023 or 1024, anyone can register a route, a port. So that's the reason it was blocking. Okay.
Yep.
But you can, I'll be sharing this link. Or I didn't, so let me share this link. You don't really have to copy, like type everything. I'll be sharing this link, and you can join me in this session. Okay, and we can all code together. All right, so so I shared a link in the chat. So if you just click on the link, you'll be able to join, and we can all code together. Okay, and you'll have the copy of it. So no reason for you to kind of set up a local. All right, so if you don't have any further questions, so let's implement whatever we learned today. Okay, so let's see how this application works for us, because many of the members are new. So let's type a tweet here. It's a happy day, and my name is Ahsan. Okay, so if I tweet it, then you can see that it says from here, successfully received tweet. It's the happy day, and the username was Ahsan. So I submitted from here, I received here, and this route is doing nothing but taking this data from here and showing it on the page. Okay, now I can go back, I can refresh and go back, and I submit another tweet, my second tweet, and again from Ahsan. If I submit it, I can see successfully received my second tweet. Okay, and username was Ahsan. So I can refresh and go back, and you can see that I'm submitting tweets, but my old tweets are lost. It's not showing anywhere, right? So let's go ahead and find a way. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Let's go ahead and find a way to show all the tweets that I have already tweeted. All right. In order to do that, how about we create a new route? Create a new route /my tweets, where I'll be able to see all my tweets. Okay. So in order to create a new route, it's very easy. You do @app.route. Okay. And then you specify what is the route. Okay, my new route, a new URL is my tweets. Okay. All right. And then I'll say, what does my tweets do? Oh, my tweets is a function. My tweets is a function. So what is a function? Actually, function we haven't covered yet. Function is going to be covered in the next class. But for now, just know the function does something. Okay. So def my tweets. It's just a name. And here I can do whatever I want. So what does my tweet supposed to do? It's supposed to return something, return my tweets. It's supposed to show all the tweets that I have tweeted so far. So let's return something from here. Return a big string, and I say h3, a header, h3, and in between h3, I want a header, so that's why I use h3. And in between, I want to say all my tweets. Okay, ... That's it. No programming so far. whoever goes to /tweets will be given this page with the header, all my tweets, but there'll be no tweets because I haven't really programmed that yet. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. So now I'm registered the route, so I should be able to go there. Okay. All right. So just for info, see on the top right corner, there is a link here. Open in a new tab. Do you see that? If I click here, it actually will give me the page. Okay, in a browser window. Instead of small window, I have a big window now. So I can see, I can type here my tweets. And you see that all my tweets, the page is showing up with ... Okay, this proves that we have registered a route, successfully registered a route. I don't like this, all my tweets in small. I think I want to change it to H1. H1 will make it a little bigger. I'll have to stop it and rerun it. And if I refresh this page now, all my tweets showing up in big fonts. So far, so good. Any question?
Just kind of a different angle question. Is it like a best practice to have like two different, like, I guess my question would be, what happens if I have two different routes which associate to the same, let's say, /post office? Is it like a kind of best practice doing this way, or every single route should be associated with a different, endpoint or whatever?
In an ideal world, every route should have its own specified responsibility. Okay, it doesn't mean that we can't have one route and do everything in the same route. We can, but that's going to make things really unmanageable. Now, coding can be complicated. And when so many developers work together, and as the project becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, imagine when Facebook started, it was probably simpler at that point. But as it grew, the amount of feature that Facebook has is like, I don't think people can count it even, like so much, right? So it's very easy to become really complicated as the project grows. So there are some best practices. The best practices in web world is that every route should have its clear job responsibilities. Okay, and that's the reason we should always look for an opportunity to kind of create new routes whenever it makes sense. Now, in this scenario, we could have combined the / and post office, because that's very small example. You know, like our project is very small, hardly 37 lines of code. So here, it's not making really sense. We could have combined it, but it's still a good practice to kind of create different routes based on the responsibility of it. So in our case, / gives you the form, / post office saves the form, and / my tweet shows you whatever has been saved so far. Okay, so one gives you the form, one saves the form, one shows you the list of all the tweets you have so far. So 3 different responsibilities. Make sense?
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? All right. So let's proceed. So now we have 3 routes, but what is missing is that we don't have a list to store the tweets, right? We need to store the tweets in a list. Now we learned about lists today. So in order to create a list, I have three persons joining me here. Observe Cube. Okay, I have 3 persons joining. Does someone want to help? Does someone want to help me here? Like, do you want to help me write the code, or do you want me to write the code? Okay. Macros. I would like to declare a list. Okay. So let's declare the list at line number 4. Yeah. Line number 4. Tweets. So it's a global variable. Tweets, empty list. Okay. So we have a tweets variable that has nothing inside of it. This is what we have learned so far, right? So declaration of the variable is done. Great job. We have an empty list. Now we need to add the tweet to our tweets list when the form is submitted. Okay. Now, where is the form submitted? The form is submitted line number 21 in the post office, right? So there you go. I think QB is already doing it. So line number 25, what is being done here is the tweets that append the tweet. This is exactly what you have learned, to add the tweet to the list. This guarantees us that the tweet is stored in our list. Great job. So now that we have the tweets stored, the next thing is to show the tweets in my tweets list, which is the new route we just registered, line number 29. Okay. So now in order to show the tweets, one way to do that is we can comma separate the tweets and show it in one line. I don't like it. It doesn't look really nice. Tweet should be one tweet each line should have one tweet, right? But let's keep it simple now and create a comma separated list of tweets. Can someone help me with that? So I think we need to do it at line number 31. Yeah, it's line number 31 because line number 32 to 35 is string. So we can't really do the loop there. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So sorry. Yeah, line number 31. Okay. QB is already using the right way, which is doing a for loop. All right. I want to go through all the tweets. That's correct. But tweet in the tweets. Yes. And then now comes the challenge, right? So now we need to kind of construct a list of tweets into string. So now we have a list. We need to create a string so that I can show it in a page. Yeah, that makes sense. That looks good. We don't have to return. We can return, but if we return, then the header, header will be gone, right? We can do plus TMP. We can do plus TMP. Okay, plus, there you go, and then TMP variable. Yeah, that should work. So what did we do here? We have a temp variable where we are adding all the tweets, okay? And then I'm adding the entire temp variable at the end of the string to show all the tweets. So here we constructed the tweet list, which we converted the tweets into string. From list to string, here is the TMP will contain one after the other, tweet 1, tweet 2, tweet 3, tweet 4. And then finally, we are concatenating or adding two strings, all my tweets and TMP. All right. We'll explain a little more. Let's run it and see it in action, that if it functions correctly, okay? So let's say my first tweet, username is Asan. All right, so I successfully added this. I'll refresh. I'll add one more. My second tweet, Asan. All right, so now I added 2, and then let's go to, oh, sorry, I need to see that if, okay, I need to do it again, looks like. Do a different session. So yeah, tweet, my first tweet, my first tweet after, okay, post office, then my second tweet after post office. And then let's go to what do you call my tweets. Not really showing up. I don't know what's happening. Not really showing up. I don't know what's happening. Okay, let's take one step at a time. Okay, so I have the tweets here. Let's print the tweets to see that if everything is when I go to my tweets, let's print the tweet here. So let's do print tweets. Okay, let's save it. Oh, did we save it? Maybe we didn't. Maybe that's the reason. Okay. Someone has blocked the code. Can you unblock it, please? Just click it anywhere and should unblock. All right, so I think I didn't save it. That's why it wasn't working. So let me try again. A second to it just to see if things are working. And then let's go to my tweets. My tweets. There you go. My tweets showing up now. Great, great. It's working. So let's go home. My other tweet, Tom Raptor, submit. Let's go home again, and here it's a happy day from Python says it's a happy day. All right, so we have 3 tweets so far. Now if you go to my tweets, there you go. My second tweet, my other tweet, and it's a happy day. 3 tweets showing up one after the other. That's awesome. Great job. Any questions so far? We'll optimize this a little more. Okay, we'll make this a little more readable. Oh, there you go. When I said line number 32 printed, it was printing it here, right? So just for info. So the print command worked. All right. Any questions so far, please? Anything that is looking tangled, complicated? All good? All right, so let's go ahead and see what can we do about this line. Make it a little more readable, maybe. Okay. So now there is something called formatted string. Do you want to learn about it? Since we have some time, maybe spend 5 minutes to kind of make this a little more easy. Okay. There is something called formatted string. Formatted string allows you to put variables inside of a string directly. So you can see that we are returning all my tweets here, right? All my tweets here. So a formatted string will allow me to kind of directly, instead of doing plus TMP, I can just enter the TMP inside of this string. So that's very easy. I can do F in here like this. It makes it a formatted string. And this TMP variable, I can just put it in here directly with some bracket, curly braces around it. So that allows the TMP variable to be translated into the into the variable form. Okay, it's not a TMP string, it's actually the variable, as you can see now, right? So that way you don't have to do like plus something, then plus something else. So this can become a little unreadable. Formatted string makes it really easy to kind of read the code. Okay. Another thing, my suggestion here is that TMP, it works, but it's always important to like name your variable correctly. Okay. Well, TMP is definitely a good example. But if it was me, I would just do tweet list, maybe our what do you call, it's actually tweet HTML, right? It's a tweet HTML because we are converting that to HTML. you can just do what it contains. You can do tweet HTML or yeah, something of that sort. And then you can just do plus, right? That would also work. And then you do tweet HTML. This way, you have list converted into tweet. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. You're doing tweet HTML, right? Another thing, instead of adding a BR here, even better. Instead of adding a BR here, we can do LI. That's exactly what I was doing. And I think you have just nailed it. We can get rid of the BR now. So people we don't have HTML idea, please don't worry. This is, we'll have a separate class on HTML, but we are already using some HTML. This is just creating a list with bullet points. All right, I think this is really good. We'll save it and
What
see
are
it.
the,
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like LI and the OR? I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with, no.
I'll explain it right now. OL stands for ordered list. Ordered list has orders in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And anything, and if you have an LI in OL, it's just a list item. LI stands for list item. So I can have OL start, OL end, LI, list item. The first one will be 1, second one 2, and the third one is definitely third. So number 1, then the list item. Number 2, then the list item. Number 3, then the list item. So one after the other. We have something called OL. We also have something called UL, which is unordered list. Unordered list. Okay. Since we are talking about it, why don't I just quickly show you HTML playground? Okay. This is an HTML playground. I'll just show you here. So we were talking about OL. And I can OL close. This is the HTML syntax. Whatever opens has to be closed. OL start, OL end. In between is your code. So this, I'm creating an ordered list. And then here I can say LI. LI is a list item. And then I can close this LI. Okay. And in between I can say my first item. I can save it. Why do I have to? I don't want to save it, but run it. How do you run it? How do I run it here? Play. No, how do I run it? Oh, here, there you go. My first item, you see here, my first item, right? So let's add a few more items here. And you can see that it's my first item, this should be my second item, my third item. So this syntax in HTML, it creates this list of 1, 2, 3. This is a way of creating list in web browser. Okay, is the language that we're using here is called HTML. This is the language of the web, hypertext markup language. It's super easy. It looks fancy, complicated, blah blah blah, but once you understand it, it's super easy. We'll have a separate class on HTML to understand the basics of HTML. We'll also integrate something called Twitter Bootstrap, which is a framework to make your web page beautiful. Now, if you see our page, it's not beautiful, right? But we'll beautify it using Twitter Bootstrap. So one thing here, OL is an ordered list, and every LI is a list item, and the numbering happens automatically, 1, 2, 3. I can change this OL from OL to UL, okay? And now you can see that's an unordered list. Now you don't have 1, 2, 3, instead of I have ... Okay, so OL stands for ordered list, UL stands for unordered list. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Problem. So now let's go ahead and see what's happening here. There you go. I think we have some more good examples. UL gives you ... OL gives you 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Great. I think we have a pretty good formation now. So let's save it, stop it, and rerun it just to be sure. Okay. I rerun it. Let's open the new browser. My first tweet from Raptor. Let's go back. Then my second tweet. my last tweet. Okay, good. So I tweeted 3 items. Let's go to my tweets, and there you go. All my tweets showing up in a list. My first tweet, my second tweet, and my last tweet. Okay, let's duplicate this tab, and maybe here, just for the ease of viewing. Okay, I'll show it in here, and let me. Okay. All right. So now here I'll go home page, and then another tweet from Bradford. Okay. All right. Tweet, and then I'll refresh this, and you can see another tweet is showing up here on the right side. Okay. So what is happening behind the scene? We are submitting the form. The form data is going to the post office. Post office is taking the data from post, storing the data into the list variable, tweets. Then, since we have the information stored in a list, we have a route called my tweets. If we go there, it uses HTML to render all the tweets I have so far, and it uses for loop to go through the list and create a list item for each. Okay, it creates a list item for each. So there you go. So here's our for loop that goes to the tweet, and for each tweet we have an li, and then finally I return all my tweets in an OL li, ordered list of tweets. This page doesn't look the most beautiful. We'll be using Twitter Bootstrap, if a library, to kind of beautify all the pages, but that's coming in the upcoming classes. All right, I think I kind of covered whatever I wanted to cover in this class. This is the time for questions and answers. Please ask your questions. I'll try to answer all of them.
Just one question regarding line 17.
17, okay.
Yeah, so I'm questioning about, I don't understand that value equal to capital T with tweeters.
Okay, sure. So this line number 17 actually is coming from the last class, since you're not there, so that's why it's confusing you, but that's actually very simple. Okay, this input type submit is an input element in HTML. Okay, an element in HTML. Input type submit. An input with type submit means that it allows you to submit a form. It allows you to submit a form. That's why it's input type submit. Now, what allows you to submit a form? If you ever submit a form on the web, it's a button. You click on a button to submit something, to send something, you do something, button click, like a Facebook status. You type something and submit or post, right? So that's the type submit. But understand the type submit. What is this value tweet? The value tweet is that, so let's get rid of value tweet first of all. Let's get rid of that. Okay, let's save it, stop it, and rerun it. If we stop it and rerun it, you'll see that the button's name, the button's value is now converted into submit. Okay, that's the default of it. Okay, every type submit button is named or valued submit. Value is the whatever you see as a text in there per button. Okay,
So that value, the whatever the go to the value is the text in that submit button.
exactly, perfectly correct. Okay, so let's call it save instead. Okay, let's call it save. So I'll save it, stop it, and run it. Excuse me. There you go, save. Okay,
Cool.
great. Any further questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I see on line 34 and 35, I see F.
Yes.
Is it for the formatting or?
It's called the formatted text. Formatted text. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Let's play with that a little. Okay. Let's play with that. So real quick. Okay. So now I'll take a string. A string is anything that has quotes, right? So I can say that my first tweet. I can hit enter. It shows my first tweet. A string is very dumb. It shows whatever is in there. It doesn't really go and try to understand what is inside of it. Okay. So let's declare a variable called name. My name is Hassan. Okay. My name is Hassan. And then I say my first tweet. And then I want to show my name. Fair enough. I say I'm creating a string. I'm creating a string or a text which says my first tweet. Then I have a dash, and then I intended to show my name in here. You can see I declared a name variable. My name is valued Hassan. So when I say what is my name, it should say Hassan. So I say I show my name here. So if I hit enter, you'll see that, like I said, string is very dumb. It didn't really understand what I said. It showed exactly what was in the string. My name, my first tweet dash name. So it didn't really converted the variable into its actual value. Instead, just showed the variable name, which is not something we want. So in this scenario, there are two ways to do that. One old way of doing it in Python 2. Now, by the way, Python 2 is gone. Now it's Python 3. The old way of doing it is you create two, you concatenate, you join two strings. How you do that? You create the first one, and then plus, you create the first string, then whatever variable is there, you add a plus and the variable name. Okay, now the variable doesn't have code. Instead, the variable is exactly a logical variable. This way, it shows my first name and then dash Hassan, because this is a variable. It goes ahead and changes the name into Hassan. Okay, it's a placeholder. So that's the old way of doing it, which works, but there is an even better way of doing it in Python 3. It's called formatted string. It's called formatted string. So instead of adding this like closing the code and then adding plus, then adding the variable, the other way of doing it is this. We keep it very simple like this. Okay, like the old example that I showed that didn't work. Then I add if in the beginning of it. If in the beginning of it. That makes it a formatted string, special string. Okay, and then whatever variable is there, I'll just have to do a special treatment here. Curly braces, curly braces. What will happen now? Python will take this string, see that it's a formatted string, then it starts looking for variable inside of it. Then it said, hey, I have curly brace name, curly brace end, which means the name is a variable. Let me look for the reference to it. Then it will find out, oh, name has been declared as Hassan. So I need to actually change it to Hassan. So let's try that. There you go. My first tweet, Hassan. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions, please? No? All good? I'll take it as no further questions then. Then let's talk about a little more that what is next. All right, in the next event, which is 7 days from now, we'll be learning about functions. Okay. By the way, we are already using functions, but we'll learn more about functions. When to use it, how to create a function, how to parameterize it, how to return values from function. And we'll be refactoring our code, which means that changing this code that we have written here, changing this code to introduce new functions and make it more readable. Okay, functions are super duper powerful feature of any programming language. be it JavaScript, Java, Python, C, C++. They're super duper powerful thing. Functions are also called doers. If you want to do something, function is the way to do it. Okay, functions are called the doers. So very powerful stuff, very important class. I hope you'll all join, and we'll refactor the code to kind of introduce functions in there. Okay. $1 million question, Juan. Yes, we'll be using Jinja. Now we are using HTML right inside as in a text, in a text string, is just to not make it more complicated. Okay. As we become more familiar with that, we'll introduce, I think, Twitter Bootstrap first. We'll use Twitter Bootstrap to beautify our HTML. The page that is not looking good, it will be looking good. But as we include CSS and HTML and more like framework element, it will become, more text heavy, right? Then we'll use Jinja to kind of introduce MVC structure. MVC stands for, I think it's Model View Controller. So we'll create a Model View Controller structure here. That's a better way of writing your code and structure your code. And when we introduce MVC, I think it's very obvious that we need to introduce Jinja. We need to introduce model and controller as well. So that will be as we go through, I'll be introducing those. For database, by the way, we'll be using MongoDB, and that's coming. So instead of storing the information in a list, the ideal place to store the variable is not a list, because as you stop the application, your data will be gone, right? I can stop the application, and if I just refresh this page, what happens? There is no tweets, all gone, because it's in the RAM. If you want to really store the information permanently, its database is the solution, and we are going to use MongoDB to store the data and that's coming. So I think we can touch on probably MongoDB in 2 or 3 classes from now. If the next class is function, I think after that, from 1 to 2 classes, we should be able to store the data in MongoDB. Any further questions?
Is there a way I can get the recording for last, I think, or maybe last two classes?
Yeah, the last session was recorded. I can share that in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll share that with everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. One more thing. I guess the code here is in the Replit platform, right? Or is somewhere in the report?
Very good question. Sorry, I shared the link with you in the chat.
Yeah.
Right. So this code, you can click on that link and you can get that code. Okay. But that will be my code. So how you can actually play with this without kind of changing my code by forking it. Okay. So let me show you an example. I can go to, for example, my repos, and you can see that here I have Raptor Coder Twitter day 2, right? You can always click here and fork it. So you see that? There's something called fork, 3 dots and fork it. And then you can go from day 2 to day, for example, I create a fork for day 3, okay? So it'll create a copy of my existing one and give me a new playground, okay? So you can always create as many copies as you want, play with it, and and that's a very good way of learning. Great way of learning, actually, by playing around with the code. Okay.
Sweet. Thank you.
Great. If there is no further questions, thanks everyone for joining. I hope that helped. I'll be sharing the video recording in the meetup chat. Okay.
Sorry, in the where? Oh, meetup. Okay, gotcha.
In the meetup chat, and everyone will get the link. You should.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a very good weekend.
Thank you. Feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.